Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Old School RuneScape Q&A. I'm your host Mod Sween, and this week I'm joined by Mod Kieran.
Hello.
Mod Ash.
Hello.
Mod Tide.
Hey.
And Mod Oasis.
Hello.
I've got Mod John in the studio producing for us, so thank you very much. And we've got Mod JD on the chat. So if you have any questions you'd like asked, at Old School RS, and then he'll send your questions to us. I'll run through some announcements as usual. So this week's game update brings with it the Christmas event. So Santa Claus is back for another year. And you need to save Christmas again.
We should have had like some decorations in here, shouldn't we?
Well, I think we're a bit too...
It doesn't look very festive.
It doesn't look very festive. I don't know what we've got lying around the studio. Maybe something somewhere. So following this Q&A, which is going to be shorter than usual, Mods, Oasis and Tide will be playing through the event with you after the Q&A ends. So if you haven't yet completed the event, you can hop into game with them and play through the event alongside them. Next up is connectivity. So, I mean, you saw the events of the weekend. Mobile players and some official desktop client users weren't able to even launch the client. So we were, and still are, being targeted by malicious attacks, but we are happier with how things are looking and how much better you're able to play the game, but things aren't yet resolved. We're still working very hard on resolving it. I think earlier, Kieran, you pointed out how cross-departmental this has been.
This has been like pretty seriously. The multiple departments have been working on this virtually like non-stop for the last couple of weeks, racking their brains of how they can handle what's going on. So,
number one priority, and even alongside that, having seemingly made the issue a bit better for you to play with, we're working a lot harder and refining like our communications and escalations procedures as well, just so you stay we're able to communicate with you far more effectively and a lot quicker.
Yes, it's all very well being able to get the sysadmins on the case over the weekend, but if we don't tell the players that we had done so, they can't tell that anything's happening.
Yeah.
Precisely. Slightly related, we're seeing more issues with players encountering the error message of too many login attempts. So we are aware of that, and we're working on how better to identify and help the players affected by it. Similarly, Australian and Asian players, players based in Australia and Asia rather, may have seen an increase in latency. We are aware of that, and again, we're actively working on resolving it as quickly as possible. Next up, the Nightmare poll. So everything passed in the poll. So that's going to see the Nightmare boss being added, and as rewards, the Inquisitor's Mace, the Nightmare Staff, the Harmonized Nightmare Staff, the Volatile Nightmare Staff, the Eldritch Nightmare Staff, the Siren's Tome, and the Inquisitor's Armor. So everything passed the poll, which brings me to the next point, the Siren's Tome specifically. And for that, I'd like to hand over to Mod Kieran to talk a bit more about it.
I don't want to acknowledge the way you accidentally said one of the words, but the community might have picked up on it. Sorry. It's actually quite exciting that for the first time, I think it's one of the first times we've actually had all the rewards pass in a poll for a boss. It's awesome. I think the beta system is really helping so that the players can get in game and actually play with the rewards before they vote on the poll. But the Siren's Tome. So there's obviously been controversy in the community. People have correctly raised up a lot of different problems with it, such as whether it should be attached to the sigil, the arcane sigil, or the shield instead of the Mage's Book. That could be perceived as perhaps that's to help Iron Men, and the fact that getting an arcane is quite difficult for an Iron Man. There's the problem of whether the arcane gets devalued by doing this, etc. And this has been, to be honest, this was quite mixed in the team even before we went to the blog and poll. We've been discussing it throughout the poll, and obviously now the community also sees that it's actually passed as well. We're still discussing this, and just because it's passed the poll doesn't mean we're not willing to have further discussions or make changes if we deem necessary. What we're planning to do is make that decision on what we're going to do and put out a blog tomorrow to explain how we're going to go forward.
Yep, so expect a blog from us tomorrow talking more specifically about the Siren's Tome. So even though it did pass, obviously the content isn't arriving tomorrow. There's still lots of time to make other decisions should we need to make them. So I know there's, like Kieran said, there's been lots of reaction to the passing of it in the poll, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be added to the game. So we'll talk more to you tomorrow about that. The last announcement is talking about what's happening next week. So today's update was the last update of the year. When will the first update of the next year be? Anyone knows?
We're looking at the 9th, I think.
Cool. So the 9th of January will be the next game update.
It's a Thursday. Although we do actually have some maintenance planned on Monday,
Oh, okay.
16th.
So we will get some comms prep for that one, so you players know to expect the maintenance.
Yeah, we're looking at middle afternoon for Mondays rather than the usual 11:30 in the morning slot. But there's just some under the hood stuff that we'd like to be able to tweak before the big break.
Cool. And for next week's Q&A, we don't know yet if there's going to be one. We're still trying to work that out. Lots of us are on holiday for the Christmas period. And me too. If we can have a Q&A, we will. But again, we'll let you know once we know.
Would it end up being like the Kieran solo stream?
No, I'm on holiday next week. I'm actually back the week after because I think I'm the only developer that's in over the actual Christmas holidays themselves.
I know how that feels. It's actually quite nice.
It is quite nice. Like I can,
Play music.
I can play music in the office. Ooh, quite a good point.
Yes. Talk to yourself. I love being able to talk to myself in the office.
So I'm off next week and I'm back the following week, so I'll be in with you.
So maybe, nice. Maybe we can do a Q&A just us two.
Maybe.
Who can be Q and who can be A?
He's the A's automatically.
Alpha.
Cool. That's the last of the announcements, so we'll move on to the questions. Drop mod JDs on the chat, so if you have any questions at Old School RS, and then he'll pass those on to us. So we kind of touched upon this, but I want to delve a bit deeper into it. With all of the rewards from the Nightmare having passed, how does the team feel regarding the fact that one boss will have 9 unique rewards, which is on par with raiding? Would the team consider withholding one or more of the rewards to release it with future content instead?
This is part of the discussion about the book as well. Obviously not just the tome, but the rewards as a whole.
Yep.
That I think, in hindsight, we should have pulled differently in the fact that we almost pull with the presumption that 1 or 2 would fail, and hence we'd end up with a decent number of rewards. But in reality, I think the way we should do it is we should pull what we think is the right set of rewards. If some fail, then we can go back and say, okay, what about these ones? Because there's quite a lot of rewards there, that's for sure. So it's part of the discussions we're having.
Cool. Nick TFT asks, Justiciar is dead content at the moment. Will there be a tank mechanic with the new boss to give tank items a use?
How much do we ever want to say about the new boss's mechanics? When I say we, I don't actually recall if any of us are on that project.
No. Been involved in a lot of the chats about it.
Cool. So do you even know the answer?
What's the question?
Does it have any tank mechanics to make
okay.
Justica useful?
I mean,
Justiciar?
You just want information to know whether you want to buy it up front or not. I'd rather not comment in general about.
Figured that it's not the kind of info I'd want to give at this stage.
Yeah.
Keep it a surprise.
Wait and see. We have had player visits going on, so we had players in the office yesterday just to actually participate in taking on the boss, which is exciting. It's good to get actual player feedback directly on the boss encounter so far. So.
And the next one next week.
And we got another one next week. So it's something we've done now for a number of the big projects going back the last couple of years, and it's always proved really, really helpful to make sure we try and get it right.
But maybe they should, I don't know, panic buy climbing boots just in case.
There's literally a rocky outcrop on the way into the boss that you have to have climbing boots for, so, get on them. I'm kidding, by the way.
Cool, next question. So challenge mode Chambers of Xeric can take up to an hour to complete, and it's among the more challenging PVM content in the game. One of the rewards is the Torn Prayer Scroll, worth 50k. Would you consider removing the Torn Scroll from the challenge mode loot table? I guess the question is not more specifically aimed at the Torn Scroll, but more about buffing the loot table generally.
I imagine so.
I mean, personally, the purpose of challenge mode for me is just the pet, and less about it being the best way to actually make money from Chambers of Xeric. And with regards to the Torn Prayer Scroll as a whole, if the Torn Prayer Scroll is a problem, maybe we move that to different content in general, where it would be better suited, because Chambers obviously does have quite a lot of rewards itself as well.
Cool, that works for me. Are there any plans to fix the mechanic that some PvPers use to drop their untradeable items to minimise risk? It's not uncommon to meet people taking items such as Elite Void, Frozen Abyssal Whips and Suffering Rings, of which the person drops if death is imminent, giving the killer 0 loot.
I found some code that we could use to put a delay on it. It's used on emblems mostly at the moment. I would be willing to roll that out to more items.
Okay.
not all that keen to do it as a completely general thing for all untradables necessarily, but we could do it for high-profile ones potentially.
The most dropped, for example, yeah, or the ones that carry most wealth.
Yeah, I had to look into it when I was working on some other stuff about a month ago.
Okay, excellent. Could an examine info on the pillars in the Inferno give the remaining HP? Could it be added? I think is what the player's trying to ask here.
No.
But we could add an option that does it.
Okay.
It just wouldn't be the examine option.
Cool.
Although that would probably make it a left-click option on the pillar, and they currently don't have a click option, which might be annoying.
Maybe they'd like something more head-up display instead.
Yeah.
I like the setup there. The no, and then the hand over to Kieran to explain why.
They asked. No.
When could we expect more information about the rest of the Mauritania expansion? Blog and poll, for example.
I think they aren't quite finished making a decision about the current patch.
We've literally only just pulled the boss. The time it takes to do a blog, get feedback on the blog, potentially make reworks to that blog, and then pull it, I doubt we'll see it this side of Christmas, I'd imagine.
Okay.
Unless you think differently, Sween.
Nope, that sounds about right to the timelines I've had. Is there an estimate of when the new boss will be released? I'm very hyped for it. I think previously we've just said it's going to be early next year, and we're still on track to release it early next year. You'll understand us being a bit more hesitant about giving a specific release date, because sometimes we don't meet those and then you end up disappointed. But if we're a bit more general with it, then there's no disappointment and everyone's all happy.
It's certainly meant to be the first big update of the year, but it's not coming right at the start of the year as we have been able to do in previous years.
But at the beginning of next year, they can expect to see, well, I don't want to assume for you, but...
Well, I can talk a bit about some of that.
Sure, yeah.
So ModTide's done quite a lot of Pole 69 jobs that haven't made their way out yet. Today's chartership job was yours, for example, but you've also got the Nexus expansion for POH. Players have had a few questions about exactly which of the Arceus spells you went with in the end.
In the end, I went with all the Arceus spells apart from the respawn spell, because that's not used for tablets as well. And they've also been added to the portal room, and you can kick players out your house in the magic cage with it as well.
Excellent. So that'll be a thing. We've held back from releasing that one during the leagues because we thought it would actually make a difference to the league if we put it out halfway through. But come the 16th of January, when the league ends, we should be able to have that one. And then there's the bank stuff. I talked about this on stage at RuneFest, actually. The ability to equip equipable items without having to shut the bank first, and to flip the bank into a sort of worn items display mode so that you can see what you've got equipped already and take them off again. Because otherwise it'd be really frustrating if you misclick, wear an item, then have to shut the bank to take it off again. So I've sent that one for testing. It's come out fairly smooth to use, I think, because I was able to make equipping be a left click when you switch to the worn items display at the bank, so that it's
Nice.
a bit like the existing equipment interface, the dual one that I don't think a lot of people use. And I'll show you stats as well of the items while you're in the bank, because why not? And players said when we polled it that they wanted a toggle so that they didn't have to see the option if they didn't want to see the option. Well, that's fine. I've added a toggle. For what it's worth, I've applied it not just to the equipping of things and the eating of things that was polled and the drinking of things. I've applied it to ops on items in your inventory other than depositing, because it seemed really weird to have a toggle that only applied to these three types of things but not to all the other things that have got options at the moment. So there will be a toggle, but it's a global one. And I found that since we've got those ops in deposit boxes as well, they turn up there, so you'll be able to equip things in the deposit box, should the fancy take you to do that. That also respects the toggle, though.
The deposit boxes probably end up being quite an odd place to equip items, but you can, so why not?
Yeah, well, it was that will work around it,
Yeah.
or let the player just not choose to do so, which I think they'll manage. Anyway, so that's gone for testing, and the eating and the drinking. Had a lot of fun tracking down items in the game with a drink option, especially as there's some out there that aren't really suitable for it. like the bravery potion from Legends Quest. It's got a drink option, but what it actually does is open menus and click you through a load of stuff. You don't want that happening when you've got the bank open. Also, quite a few things from Trouble Brewing. There's that rum. You drink that, it's a teleport. I really, really don't want you doing that with the bank open. But I used your potion types constants, expanded that system to do this.
Nice. Glad it's come in use.
Oh, it's come in use, all right.
I mean, it would have been a hell of a job otherwise, I imagine.
Slightly. I mean, I did it in 2010 to the other RuneScape, and it wasn't too bad then, but I'm delighted to have a nice system to plug into now.
Yay.
So that'll be a thing, gone for testing. Also, a smaller sounding job that was arguably bigger. Thurgo to give you Surviving Sword after doing Knight's Sword. If you bring in more iron bars and blue-right ore, he'll give you as many Surviving Swords as you want once you've done the quest. That was a surprisingly big job, not because of the impact of it, but because Thurgo's dialogue was really, really convoluted. He'd got tie-ins for skill capes, which, by the way, I didn't like how that was done, because you speak to them, the first thing is skill capes or anything else. Like, a lot of the people dealing with Thurgo on a daily basis are probably newer players going there for the quests rather than everyone who needs another skill cape every few minutes. So that's nasty usability. And then the way he was checking to see which bits of Giant Dwarf could you be talking about, which bits of Knight's Sword could you be talking about. If you need to give them a pie, that could be for either of them. And then, yeah, I had to do a fair bit of unpacking of all this before I could plug more stuff in. Also, Sir Radamus Urkel in the Legends Guild is meant to give you Vialdi's dagger once you've done that quest, which meant I wanted to have a bit of a read of all the other code in the game that involves Vialdi's dagger to see what you might suddenly be able to do. You can get lots more than beyond the quest. I don't think there's anything dangerous out there, but I'd rather play safe on that. So that's coming, and hopefully if we can get the graphics, we can do some of the more cosmetic-y things. Also, Mod Oasis might like to talk about his work on spice racks.
Yes, so after finishing off the Christmas event, I started taking a crack at the spice racks in the POH. So right now, as it stands, you can, if you really want to, you can store up to a max cache stack or a max stack of spices in your POH in the kitchen. So if you want, was it like 2.1 billion spices, you can. And I'm still kind of working through what's the best way to withdraw them, and what's the best way to kind of give it for the player to input it. So yeah, that should hopefully be ready for the next update or afterwards in January.
The next update or afterwards. That is every future update ever.
You know, don't want to give any specifics. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so you still need the graphics for it, or were you able to find something you could recycle suitably?
Yeah, probably need graphics. Right now it's the one with the ladle and the spoons hanging off, so I think one with just a few spices chucked in there will look nicer.
That would be nice. Spicy.
Cool, excellent.
Well, that's us talking about Pole 69.
Players can expect that in January then?
Also
Or-
got the
or
changes
afterwards?
with the Broomer Torch as well being usable
Yes.
on the Brazier and being able to smoke traps. And the change...
Smoke what?
Smoke traps.
Oh, traps.
Smoke traps. And being told that you've unlocked music tracks as well.
Ah.
That's one.
Do you want to talk about the work required for that?
So there's... How many music tracks in the game? There's nearly 600.
600 and something.
Yeah.
The 600th was Box of Delights, and we've had more since then.
And 300, 400 of them were not plugged into a nice system where you could
Oh, yes.
show a nice message. So I've had to go through all the code, seeing where you unlock all your music tracks, and plug them into the new system to be able to tell you you've unlocked it. And there's also a nice toggle in the audio section to turn that off if you don't like it.
You're being mocked for not knowing the game, that there are 626 tracks. How could you not know that?
But there's only one banging track though.
Coil.
Could you poll the Bone Crusher working on additional bone drops? And as you were tagged in the tweet, I got this, so I assume you might have already seen it.
No, actually, haven't seen that one.
Sure.
But yes, we can.
We can, okay.
Yeah, Maz wrote a fairly expandable infrastructure for loot drops.
Sweet. Sorry, one second. Where were we? So Jinkuban asks, could we expect a way for Iron Man to buy bonds before Group Iron Man is released? I think we've spoken on Q&As before about how it could perhaps be achieved by using their GP and then perhaps only interacting with bonds on the Grand Exchange. But whether or not there's an appetite to do so.
Don't see why not, really.
Would be nice. It'd be safer than having to drop your money.
So currently Iron Man are bonded by the main accounts, using a bond on the account. So we'd just be removing that step.
Because right now, I assume the restriction on the G is you literally can't access it. So we'd just have to move the restriction to be like a white list of items, which would be a bond.
Yeah, or give them a much simpler interface that doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
I think I'd be inclined to, yeah, we'd certainly poll it because it's like almost like a new function for the bond, and we historically we've polled those kind of things. Twisty Gnome in the chat mentions that as long as a 10% tradable fee is also paid, I'd be inclined to do the same then. Cool, okay, so perhaps we'll look to poll it prior to the release of Group Iron Man.
I expect there'll be time before that one comes around. For those asking when it would be, we don't know. There's a lot of dependencies on things outside of our team, which makes it rather hard for us to predict, even if we had all of our plans set. They're subject to being affected by other things outside of our scope. Also, we also promised to do a clan system. That one needs to come first. Reason for that is that Group Iron Man is due to be built out of the clan system for its permanent grouping to exist, which means that we got to do clans first, which means that it's months before we could start on Group Iron Man, which means we don't have a date that's coming up anytime soon. Sorry. Still, hopefully we could get this thing through first.
Pork Groin asks, for us Barbarian Assault fans, could it be possible to add a timer so we can see how long the whole run takes?
Sounds simple. One would love to hope it's simple, but with the Barbarian Assault code, infamous Barbarian Assault code, it might be a lot harder than I would guess.
I know we had a lot of fun with Barbarian Assault. Oh God, I can't remember his mod name. You know when we removed, well, we added the kind of custom projectiles to Barbarian Assault.
Yes.
QA tester. I can't remember what his name was.
Tom H.
That's it, my Tom H. I know he had lots of fun trying to get that going.
Yes.
I had lots of fun adding a skip option to the ladder. That should be stream. I had a lot of fun making the reward script not work out the points 7 times the run. So.
Yes, the fact that in the original version from the old school era, it was done one way to show on the screen, then it was done another way if you clicked on the ground to shut the screen and to give you your points, and it could populate that screen with the info that you'd got after you got it, or the info that was being predicted for when you would get it, and the two were just completely separate code that was hopefully going to end up at the same thing and sometimes didn't. And the fact that it had ties in to see whether you clicked on the ground is very odd indeed.
We could probably put out at the end of a wave how long that wave took. Keeping track of them all through a full 1 to 10 would be much harder, because your team can change all the way through. You could actually start at a different wave. You might log out in between waves. So it probably, I mean, if we were able to do it for 1 to 10, it would have to be like, you stick to the team through all the way through, maybe.
Consider it was counting time, and it also remembered what wave you had just done when it was last counting time. And then the next wave you go into, if it notes that it's one up from the last wave that you were counting time for, it continues counting up. Otherwise, if it's wave 1, reset and start counting from 0. Otherwise, wipe, because you're clearly starting from somewhere that wasn't 0.
Yeah, it also becomes easier if it's not necessarily the same team and it's just you personally.
Yeah, because Barbie Assault doesn't have a central controller, which, by the way, is why so many of the odd artifacts in its behaviour exist.
And it could have.
Yes, well, we didn't have the controller entities that the engine started supporting in about late 2014. It did have NPCs that I was using for minigame development in the old school era, and I regret that that's not how this was done.
Besides the code, though, I love Barbie Assault. Like, it really is a fun minigame, so yeah. It does deserve the love every now and then.
Cool. I think now might be a good time to temporarily say goodbye to Mods Tide and Oasis to get set up on the PCs to prepare for the Christmas event community playthrough. So we'll let you depart, and then the three of us will crack on with some questions for the remainder of the Q&A.
Bye-bye.
If Kieran loves barber salt, then why doesn't he marry it?
I did see a nice description describing the two of you as father and son.
Me and barber salt, we're going to have a great life together. Can't wait.
Cool, next question. Could we consider making it so you can examine pets to see kill count, similar to how it works in RuneScape 3?
Same problem as the Inferno pillars. We can't dynamically change examine text.
Okay.
In terms of, as you said, having another option on it, at the moment we suppress the options for other people's pets, which would rather defeat the point of this. But if the data were tracked for what the kill count were, and we removed the thing that stops other people opping the pet at all, then we could make an option do this.
So I guess does it come down to player preference then as to whether they'd rather see an option or whether they'd rather see or not? Yeah.
I think it's possible. Yeah, there's a toggle for whether you see options on other people's pets, if I recall correctly, because the sprite for that toggle was a little bit iffy. I made it by taking a screenshot of an actual in-game cat and tracing around it slightly, which is not a good way of getting art, but I was short of artists at the time.
I was asking how the changes from Maiden for Pearl 69 are coming. I know
Mod Oasis has been doing
Oasis has
those.
been working on that.
Yes, I think he sent half of it to QA and the other half still needs doing.
Awesome.
He's had a Christmas event on him lately, so he's been a little busy.
I imagine that would be later than some of the other releases.
I don't know. I mean, I'd like both Maiden jobs to go at the same time rather than separately. And one of them has not yet been done. But, come 9th of January, even if it's not ready for that, maybe they could come together on the 16th.
Awesome.
I don't really know what QA's workload's going to be looking like around there, but there's a lot of stuff building up for.
Speaking of Maiden.
What are you? Oh, I see.
Mods Oasis Inside, how are you getting on? Thumbs are up. Okay, shall we say goodbye then, and then we'll switch the stream over to those two. I'll quickly run through the announcements just in case players missed at the start of the stream. So this week's game update brings with it a Christmas event, and in a matter of minutes, Mods Tide and Oasis will be playing through that, and you can join them in game. On connectivity, so we were and we still are being targeted by malicious attacks. We're still investigating, still resolving. Like Kieran said earlier, it is a huge studio effort. Lots of teams have been collaborating to try and restore the playing experience to be what you quite rightly expect it to be. Players experiencing the error message of too many login attempts, so we're aware that that's happening, and we're trying to work out how to better identify and help the players affected. And similarly, players based in Australia or Asia may have seen an increase in latency recently. We're also aware of that, and we're trying to resolve it as quickly as possible. On the Nightmare poll, so everything passed. Earlier we spoke about what we'd like to do with the Siren's Tome, and I'd recommend going back to the start of the stream because it took a bit of discussing, but tomorrow we'll be publishing a blog in which we'll have a final decision on what we're going to do with that tome. And there'll be no game update next week, or indeed until the 9th of January. So today's game update will be the last one of the year.
Except for some maintenance on Monday.
Except for some maintenance on Monday, yep. Which we'll communicate further following the stream and in advance of Monday. And there may be a Q&A next week. We're not sure yet, but we'll let you know about that one too. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be handing over to Mods Tide and Oasis.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hello. So I'm here with Mr. Tide, and I'm going to quickly run through the Christmas event and give a little bit of developer insight every now and then to a couple of things. If you want to join me and Mod Tide, we're in World 520 if you want to play at home with us. So, starting off the event, we're in Varrock. Nice little switch up from the usual of Lumbridge. And as you can see, before we get spammed with loads of people, there's some protesters outside. hide that bad boy quickly. With Santa talking to Santa, it does look a bit weird. But I'm talking to one of the children. His name is Georgie. And he's very upset about something this time of year. Normally, at this time of year, they get gingerbread gnomes in from a bakery in Varrock. However, it's not coming this time of year, so they're not very happy. So, it's up to you, the player, to sort it out. So, little bit of developer insight. I just finished watching It Part 2 after naming these children. Before naming these children, so I went with Georgie, and it also ties into his nice little jacket as an It reference. So let's talk with Santa. So Santa is hanging out with a bunch of angry children, and his son.
Do you want to go off for the public chat?
It is off. Oh, off.
No, it's not. Off.
Off. Okay.
Have fun.
So he's put his son in charge of Christmas. So it's up to us to sort it out. So I'll do what everyone else does during quests, which is to spacebar through. Of course.
Come on, man. You gotta look at it. You got all the good puns.
I wrote all these puns. So we need to sort out the gingerbread factory, or the bakery. So Santa has put the job onto us because he's trying some new parenting techniques, trying to be a better father, and now it's become our problem. So I'm going to run through the event. Mod Tide here is going to be in Varrock Square, partying down. He's the gnome child that you might see, probably not, because there's a lot of you here. So the bakery is south of the apothecary. And if you run over, you can see a very green looking man outside. He doesn't look very happy. In fact, he looks a bit worried. So we've come at the right time. Some missing gingerbread gnomes. How did we know? So Santa has told us to sort it out, and he put his son in charge. So his son, Jack Frost, has come in and locked up the other bakers whilst this one managed to escape. However, he did bring an Ice Lord in. A little reference to if you've done a Cold War quest with the Ice Lords in the cage. Jack being cold and from the north, he's imported one and shipped it directly to the bakery. So we have our little conversation with the baker, and he doesn't know what to do. Okay, so back to Santa. Santa's gonna tell us what we need to do next. Some of you have probably seen on Reddit, there's a dog going around Varrock. So you can go up to this doggy and you can pet him as the newest feature in the Christmas event. So we're back at Santa, and we're just telling him what's happened with his son. So Santa comes up with a plan. He's going to step in and help us with Christmas. Obviously not firsthand. So I'm just looking over, and Mod Tide's doing the event as a gnome child, and it looks quite interesting.
Look quite right.
It looks a bit off. So he's come up with a better idea, and that is to bring back the good old man anti-Santa. So if you've done any of the Halloween 2017 event or the Christmas 2015 event, you'll have ran into anti-Santa before. I haven't, because I've only been around for a couple months. So on this account, I have not ran into him. So I'll get a different bit of dialogue, just a little bit of fun that people might not have clocked onto. So he's going to send us into Scape Rune, which is where he's currently being held, to convince Anti-Santa to free him. So he gives us this nice little gnome tablet to get back to the bakery, or get to the bakery after we've convinced Anti-Santa for his help. So here we are. We're in Scape Rune with the delicious I don't know why I said delicious, but the beautiful anti-Santa model. And we need to convince him to help us out. So something I learned quickly whilst talking with Ash about anti-Santa is that he loves dramatic dialogue and really long monologues. So I thought I'd chuck one in, maybe not the longest in the world. He's definitely had a really long one that I kind of brushed over. I didn't want to try and echo what Ash has done. But it's a bit boring, so the player also falls asleep whilst the player does. So we'll go through the dialogue, and we need to convince Anti-Santa to help us free the bakers in the bakery. Still convincing him. So Anti-Santa sees this as his chance to escape, and we're going to take him with us to the bakery. So smash the tablet, off we go. And here we go. We're inside the bakery. This was quite an interesting one to develop, the fight between Jack Frost and Anti-Santa. I know I wanted to do some throwbacks to other characters in the game, other bosses like Vorkath, as you'll see coming up. I could have done more of the attack numbers, that's for sure. During development, some almost threw in some controversial jokes, but after discussion with some others, we thought we'll keep it quite low key. So, Jack, being a little weak boy, does nothing to Anti-Santa on his attack. So, Anti-Santa gets ready to slap him back to Lumbridge, the little goblin boy that he is, and launches a big boy attack straight to Jack Frost. Does 60 damage, and then he gets a good attack from his old friend, which is a little reference to Vorkath with his nice little walking, spitting fire attack, which was quite fun to delve into the Vorkath code and take that out and add it into this event. So Jack Frost has had enough. He does his most powerful spell, which is also a really weak one, and it splashes back and reflects off Anti-Santa's big bony belly and almost kills Jack Frost. I could have added, there was a room for an extra joke of having Jack Frost respawn in Lumbridge after getting slapped so hard, but I don't think Ash wasn't a big fan of killing Jack Frost. That's a bit dramatic for this event. So Anti-Santa's going off to chase him. So I'm not saying he's coming back in the next event or in the next year, but Anti-Santa's out there in the wild, so we might see him again in future events. It's all set up to. Okay, now we're free. We can see the bakery is full of people ready to help these bakers. So they're both locked in this storage room. So both Paul and Mary, two great British bakers, are locked inside this room. It's your job to free them. You're not sure how because you don't know where the key is. Just giving a little information on how we know. Their friend Remy, who was the worried baker outside. So we need to figure a way out to free these bakers. I could pretend I don't know where the key is, but we obviously both know where the key is. It's in the room with the Yeti. So try to walk in, and then the Yeti blasts you back straight through the door, which was quite fun to implement. And it was definitely fun watching people do this event earlier and getting blasted back through the door over and over and over again. So the bakers are worried about you. So you need to figure out a way to get that key safely. And Paul, being the great baker that he is, suggests the idea of creating a giant piece of gingerbread to protect you from the Yeti, the Ice Lord's attack, not the Yeti. Obviously, it's not the smartest idea, but hey, it might work. Who knows? So it's got to be bigger than a normal piece of gingerbread. So they normally use. Now this stumped a few people when I was watching people do the play test playing earlier. They normally use 1 ginger, 1 egg, 1 flour, and 1 cinnamon. But to make one bigger, possibly try tripling it. Wink, wink. But a few players didn't catch on to that. But that's what it is. So we can try adding 1 of each ingredient to the machine. So they're all dotted around this back room, nicely color coded and quite bright. Yeah, spam, give us the gnomes in chat. So we only need 1 for now. Take a stick to make some cinnamon. And then we're going to go up to the machine. We're going to add 1 egg. 1 flour, 1 cinnamon, and 1 ginger. And pull the lever. And we follow their recipe exactly, and instead we get these nice, delicious looking gingerbread gnome, actual gingerbread that you can eat, which heal you for 1. They're not stackable, so they're not like purple sweets, so you can't spam them. That was a nice little Easter egg I thought I'd chuck in during development. So instead, the secret is you use 3 of each ingredient, and then you'll get a shield big enough when you put them all in. So let me just collect the ingredients here. I could have done take X, but it's more fun just doing it the tedious way. So 3 of that. Oh, 3 of that. What was that? Flour. 3 cinnamon. Oh, tell if I can type. And 3 ginger. And when I pull the lever, boom, a giant piece of gingerbread that looks about the same size as the individual ones, but is bigger because you can equip it. So I've got the giant, beautiful shield. Something quite funny we discovered whilst doing some play testing for this the other day. Originally, the shield would change color to your skin. So if you had purple skin, you'd get a purple faced shield. It was hilarious, but we thought we'd keep it all the color that Mod G designed for it to be. But I was cracking up for a good while after seeing that. So we go in and we see the shield absorbs the Yeti's attack and also gets iced during it, or frosted. So it's random what color you get. I'm sorry for everyone who spent ages trying to get each of the shield variations, because you get them all at the end anyway on 1 shield. So anyone who wasted their time doing that, yeah, poor people. I apologise greatly.
Do you reckon the shield's as big as Gnome Child himself?
We'll find out afterwards.
Yeah, come outside when you finish.
We'll do some testing. From what she told me when she was creating the artwork for it, she basically took the Gnome Child's chat head and just squashed it, and then obviously cleaned it up and turned it into a proper looking shield. But it's quite funny that it's literally just his head turned into a shield and not redone. Okay, so I've got the key. I can go through the bakers. If you're stuck at any point in the quest, you can go talk to the bakers and they'll help you out, actually. So we free the bakers and we give them back their key. So we can go talk to them to finish off the event. But we've had enough talking. Let's just go straight to the end. So we're ready to leave. The bakery is now closed. We've helped them out. We've freed them. So they tell us to get lost, which, you know, is nice. Remy is no longer outside. He's gone. So we're ready to go talk to Santa. Tell him we've cleaned up his mess. We've fixed his son's problem. And Christmas is saved. However, Anti-Santa did escape. So that's possibly going to be a problem in the future. We'll find out. You'll find out. Watch this space. And there we go. Event finished. Obviously, if Ice was the first time doing the event, I would have gotten all the Christmas rewards. So if you've gotten the rewards, you'll notice you'll get spammed with quite a lot of them. Just go talk to Diango in West... what's it called? Drayton Village.
Draenor.
Village. I don't know why I have mind blank. I was thinking West Drayton. And he will, you know, that's where you get the rest of the stuff. I'm going to be called out for that one for a while.
Drayton Village.
Drayton. Anyway, okay, that's embarrassing. So that's the event. I hope everyone who played through it enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun working on it. This being my first kind of main event for the game, I was quite hopeful that it was received well, and it seems to have been. You know, there's some areas for improvement as always, but we'll finish this off by doing a little bit of a drop party by spawning in loads of Christmas items for everyone who's currently in Wealth 520.
Want to calm down? You don't want to.
Yeah, I'm going to stop there because I'm going to space them out of it because I don't want to do anything bad.
Or maybe we should go to Drayton Manor and do some over there.
Telly Drayton. No. Oh yeah, let's do the quick test. Who's bigger, Gnome Child or?
I'll do it for you. Let me get ready for this.
Let me just go get myself a shield off the man in Draenor Village, Diango, by quickly teleporting there. Holiday items. I'll be back. I'm coming back to Varrock. I'm going to take this. The rest of them are still there. And then we'll quickly run back. And then I have the shield. If for those who don't like the green shield, you can always right click on it, either in your inventory when it's equipped, and you can transform it to any of the other colours or the other two colours. Obviously fire for the red gang is best. So fire tunic is better than the Zora tunic.
I think Gnome Child's about the same height, you know?
She must have got the model of him up next to the shield and thought we've got to keep it consistent. But yeah, we'll spawn a few more items and then I think we'll have to say goodbye. Unless there's anything else.
I'm going to go to the G and show some love over there.
Yeah, drop party at the G. Let's transform into something. Some of you might have been around for last week when we were in the Twisted League doing a little bit of a drop party there. That was quite fun. Black Knight. Oh, it's this guy. Mash. Let's go as Zanik. This really is testing my knowledge of the game. Let's do something big. King Black Dragon, KBD. KBD's got a nice festive Christmas hat on. Pathfinding's not helping me out too much. Okay, we're just gonna have to teleport there. I'm gonna change back for now. Myself. What knowledge? Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Finish off there?
Yeah. That's the point, yeah. We can use the mini-map and we can teleport just by clicking. It is great. So helpful.
So I'll become Swampletics.
Change to Zuck. Oh.
Swampletics Dream.
Let's see if I can change to Zuck. Oh.
Okay.
You guys gonna say goodbye then?
Yeah, so thanks for joining us on this stream. I hope everyone has a good Christmas. Thank you for trying out the event. So have a good Christmas and a good New Year as well. And yeah, that's it from me.
See you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flippity flip.